January 19, 2026, at the Brakat District Court, Accra, Ghana, a man is being escorted through a crowd of angry protesters. Police form a human barrier. Family members scream. Journalists push forward with microphones. One question cuts through the chaos. Bright Aweh, did you murder Stephen Ken-Amwa? The man stops, turns to face the cameras. His eyes are cold.
I'm not a murderer.
You're not a murderer.
Yeah, but I'll pass through this painfully for justice to be served. I'm not a murderer. I didn't kill my friend.
I did not kill my friend. But here's what Bright Aweh doesn't mention as he proclaimed his innocence. The blood forensics found in his living room, the murder weapon discovered 100 meters from his house, the DNA evidence from his vehicle, or the wooden carpet burned in a drainage gutter with Stephen's body still inside?
Yeah, but I'm not a murderer. I didn't kill my friend.
That's what Bright Aweh wants you to believe. 7 months after one of Ghana's most brutal betrayals. But the evidence tells a different story. A story of trust weaponized, friendship destroyed, a man murdered for money he didn't even owe. Let me take you back to where the nightmare began. Back to 29th June 2025, the night Stephen Ken-Amwa, an immigration officer, a father of 2, also known as Otumfuo Nana, the king, walked into a trap. What happened that night will shock a nation, expose the dark side of friendship, and prove that sometimes the enemy isn't a stranger. The enemy is the person you trust most. This is the story of Stephen Ken-Amwa and the friend who says he didn't kill him, despite everything the evidence proves. Stay with me. To understand why Bright Aweh stands in court today claiming innocence, you need to understand what happened that night. Stephen walks out of his house at Kobinya. His phone glows with WhatsApp photos Bright sent earlier. Cash bundles, stack of Ghana cedi bills, beautiful and organized money. Finally, after months of pressure, 200,000 Ghana cedis. His friend is paying him back. But let me tell you who Stephen was before this moment, before he became a victim. Born in Old Tafo, Kumasi, heart of the Ashanti region, joined Ghana Immigration Service in 2013, 12 years serving his country, worked at the sports department, but his real passion, Asante Kotoko Football Club, the Porcupine Warriors. That's where he met Bright Aweh. 2 men in stadium stands, wearing red and white, both living for those 90 minutes of glory. They became friends, brothers, not by blood, by football, by friendship. In December 2024, the National Democratic Congress won the election. A new government emerged, new opportunities. Bright tells Stephen he has connections, high-level connections. He can help people get government jobs, immigration positions, civil service roles, teaching posts. He just needed money. Stephen believed him. Why wouldn't he? This was his Kotoko brother, his friend, his brother. But here's where the tragedy deepens. Stephen didn't just give his own money. He became the middleman. He took a total of 200,000 Ghana cedis from individuals who trusted him to provide them with jobs. Stephen collected it all, every cedi, every dream, every hope, and gave it to Bright Aweh. Months passed. January, February, March, April, May, June. No job materialized. No interviews, no employment letters, nothing. The family started asking questions, politely at first, then urgently they desperately asked, "Stephen, where are the jobs? We need our money back." Pressure mounted. Stephen pressed Bright, demanding answers, demanding the money back. And that's when Bright made his decision. What investigators didn't realize at that time was that Bright had been planning this for days, maybe weeks. But on the June 29th evening, Stephen only saw the WhatsApp photos, the cash bundles, and he was relieved. So Bright sent a message, "Come and collect your money." So they both agreed to meet at Aji Sports, a public space, very safe. But then another message came. Change of plans. "Come to my house instead. I have the money here, and it's safer in my house." Stephen hesitated for maybe a second, but this was Bright, his friend, his Kotoko brother. He headed to Ashelman Estate, to Bright's residence. What Stephen didn't know was that earlier that day, Bright had been busy. He had sent his wife away on an errand, clearing the crime scene. He had told his upstairs neighbor he will be fumigating the house. There's a bad smell in the house, so don't come back until 8 p.m. This was intentionally removing any witness from the crime scene. By evening, Bright Aweh was completely alone, waiting. 8 p.m, Stephen arrives. Bright Aweh would later tell police he gave Stephen the money. That Stephen left his house safely around 8:30 p.m. That he had no idea what happened after.
I didn't call my friend.
But the evidence tells a different story. What happened in the house between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock p.m. on the 29th June was brutal, savage, personal. A fufu pestle, a traditional wooden kitchen tool used for pounding fufu, became an instrument of death. Bright struck Stephen's skull, his neck, his chest, again, and again. Then the knife came out. Multiple stab wounds, chest, neck, blood spraying across the walls. Forensic experts would later find what they call blood stains, the patterns that tells the story of extreme violence, a vicious attack, a man fighting desperately for his life. Stephen Ken Amwa Otunfo Nana, an immigration officer, a father, a husband, a friend, died in that house. Murdered by the man who now claimed
I didn't call my friend.
Bright had a problem, a 75-kilogram problem, bleeding out on his living room floor. What investigators didn't realize at that time was that Bright had prepared. He had spray paint, pre-purchased, pre-planned. He started painting over the blood-splattered walls, covering the horror with fresh color, trying to make murder disappear. Around 10 o'clock p.m., maybe 11, Bright loaded the carpet into his vehicle. Bright pulled over, checked the surroundings, coast clear. He dragged the carpet with his friend's body inside to the gutter, positioned it carefully. Then he did something that would later help forensic team identify the body. He set it on fire. Stephen's body burned. The wooden carpet burned. Bright stood there watching his Kotoko brother. The man who stood beside him in stadiums singing victorious chants turned to ash. But fire is unpredictable. It doesn't always consume everything. Stephen's face somehow survived the flames, partially intact. So Bright was satisfied the evidence was destroyed. He drove home, showered, changed clothes, rehearsed his story. On June 30th, Stephen's phone went off. Silence. His wife, the police woman, called repeatedly, straight to voicemail. She texted, nothing. The investigation began. Police traced Stephen's last known movements. Phone records showed his last location at Shoman Estate, near one person's residence. Bright Aweh. 6 July, 2 police officers knocked on Bright's door. This is where Bright's story started. The story he would stick to. The story he still tells today. Yes, I saw Stephen on 29th June. Bright said calmly. Around 8 o'clock p.m., he came to my house and I gave him his money, 200,000 cedis. Actually, I gave him more. The officers asked, more? And here's where Bright made his first critical mistake. He got too clever. I gave him 500,000 cedis. 500,000 Ghana cedis. The officers exchanged glances. Where did you get 500,000 cedis? Bright paused. From various sources. I told Stephen to use 200,000 cedis to pay the people waiting and keep 300,000 cedis safe for me. He was asked, what source? And then the silence broke. He was silent. Mr. Aweh, where exactly did you get 500,000 cedis from? Bright couldn't answer. He stammered. He changed the subject, got evasive. The story was falling apart. And after he gave him this money, where did Stephen go? Bright claimed Stephen left around 8:30 p.m. And ever since then, he had not laid an eye on his friend. But police weren't buying it. The timeline didn't work. The money story didn't add up. An unemployed man having 500,000 Ghana cedis. How possible is this? Stephen's story is a warning about 3 things. First, be careful who you vouch for. Stephen trusted Bright, put his reputation on the line. It cost him everything. Secondly, never collect other people's money for schemes you can't personally verify. Stephen became the middleman and paid the ultimate price. Thirdly, sometimes the enemy isn't a stranger. It's the person closest to you. The one sitting beside you in the stadium. The one you'd never suspect. Bright Aweh weaponized trust, exploited friendship, murdered brotherhood. Now, he sits in prison claiming innocence despite overwhelming evidence. But Stephen's blood, found throughout Bright's house, says otherwise. The fufu pistol, hidden near Bright's residence, says otherwise. The DNA evidence from Bright's vehicle says otherwise. The wooden carpet with Stephen's burnt body says otherwise. Science doesn't lie. Evidence doesn't have an agenda. Blood tells the truth. And the truth is this: Bright Aweh destroyed 2 lives. He destroyed the life of Stephen Amwa, and he destroyed his own life. He gained nothing. He lost everything. Justice for Stephen Amwa. Justice for Otumfo Nana. The trial continues. The evidence is overwhelming. The verdicts await. But one thing is already certain. Stephen will never be forgotten. The Bright Aweh's claim of innocence will never erase what the blood evidence has already proven. The enemy was within, and the truth will prevail.